This video is brought to you by SoccerLoco.com. Be sure to use coupon code SR4U1 at checkout to receive 10% off any order of $75 or more. Hey guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the brand new artificial grass version of the Nike Hypervenom Phantom 2 in the wolf gray, total orange, and black colorway. Now inside the box they do include a string bag to go along with the shoes themselves. The string bag features gray strings, black and gray in color on the front with a pattern that matches the shoes, your Hypervenom branding in orange, and on the back of the bag it's solid gray with a single orange Nike swoosh at the bottom. Along with the bag they also include these two tags with the shoes. This one essentially just goes over the tech specs of the AG sole plate and stud pattern on this particular version. And of course, this tag right here that essentially lets you know that the graphic printed on the bottom of the sole plate and the studs will wear off over time, something I will talk about in detail later in the video, so stick around for that. Other than that, all you're going to find inside the box, as you guys can see, are the shoes themselves. So we'll get these guys out of the box really quickly and we'll take a closer look at the AG variation of the new Hypervenom Phantom 2 from Nike. So in today's video, we're going to be doing a complete overview of the shoe, the upper, the mid-cut design of the Phantom 2, as well as, of course, the AG sole plate and stud pattern. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around and watch the entire video. If you guys are interested in a pair of these for yourself, you can check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you will find Buy It Now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you will be able to pick these up below their normal $280 retail price. There's actually a $5 premium for the AG version versus the firm ground version, so please keep that in mind. And again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below in the description of this video. With that being said, let's get right into the review. To start things off, let's talk tech specs and performance when it comes to the Hypervenom Phantom 2. Now, if you guys do want to see these things in action, the firm ground version, I should say, I'll leave an annotation on screen to my playtest video. You can go ahead and check that out. I kind of go over all the details regarding the firm ground version of the Phantom 2 if you are at all interested. But before we get into the details of the upper, I want to talk about the sole plate and stud pattern, being that this is the AG version of the Phantom 2. So this is the stud pattern that you would want to buy if you play on artificial grass fields. Nike has definitely been first to market in terms of embracing the existence of AG fields and really the requirement of using an AG stud pattern on an AG field. Not only is this going to perform better, it's also going to offer better durability, and most importantly, it's going to be a lot safer than if you were using a firm ground stud pattern on artificial grass. Firm ground shoes designed for natural grass, not for artificial grass. So in terms of what you're getting here, it's the exact same sole plate and stud pattern found on the AG version of the original Hypervenom Phantom, so nothing has changed. Obviously visually it does look a little bit different in that some of the studs are solid black in color, and of course you have that printing on the bottom, something we'll talk about more a little bit later in the video. But still, what you have here is that same kind of glass nylon base to the sole plate that is more flexible, just like the firm ground model in comparison to the original Hypervenom Phantom. And you're going to find a much thicker, more solid layer of P-backs that covers the entire sole aside from the midfoot area. That's not only going to act as better durability because you have more material here, it's also going to act as a heat shield for your feet when playing on artificial grass on a hot summer's day. You have thicker material that's going to absorb the heat a little bit better and hopefully keep your feet a little bit cooler, because anybody who's played on a turf field on a hot summer's day, you know that it can really burn your feet. So something like this is going to help at least a little bit. As far as the actual studs themselves are concerned, they're designed specifically for use on artificial grass. And the best way that I can describe how it feels like wearing firm ground shoes on natural grass, but with an AG shoe on artificial grass. It just feels right. You're not going to get that cling that you're going to find from a firm ground shoe, which is going to be a lot safer, and it's just going to perform and feel like a normal stud pattern on a pair of soccer cleats would. You get nice aggressive traction, you get good stability. You can see there's a lot more studs here under your feet than what you're going to find from a firm ground shoe, and that's because artificial grass is a lot more shallow. You don't really need to dig in very deep to get good traction, so the studs themselves are, I would say, about 3/4 the length of a normal firm ground stud. They're also slightly larger in profile and are hollowed out through the middle. The tips of the studs, as you guys can see by the slightly different texturing, is a softer rubber, so they have some flexibility to them, which makes for a break in the grip. It doesn't have that cling like I mentioned. So again, in terms of just really, really good traction when pushing off in all directions, that's exactly what you're getting here from any of Nike's AG stud patterns. And of course, it's a lot safer, which in my opinion is the most important reason why, if you're playing on artificial grass, it's really, really important to be using an AG stud pattern. So that's really what it has to offer. No major changes coming from last year's version of the AG Phantom 1. It's the same stud pattern, same sole plate, so the performance is going to be identical as well. As far as the upper is concerned, that is completely different coming from the original Phantom. It's still called Nike Skin, as you guys can see by the branding, but the actual feel of the shoe is totally different. It's a mesh-based synthetic material, but the mesh, as you guys can see, is totally flat. Doesn't have any of that texturing that we saw on the original. And because of that, you have a much kind of thinner type of material, but it's also a lot harder than you might expect. There's a micro texturing on the surface. It does have these little splits in the actual upper itself as well, but the overall feel is kind of, I don't want to say rigid, but it's thin. And just different from anything else that I've ever used. It has a very responsive kind of pingy feel when you make contact with the ball. And the added texturing really doesn't add to the experience, in my opinion. You're going to find that the AG version does have some added texturing here going around the lip of the forefoot and toe box area. So you do get some extra reinforcement there, which is going to add to the overall durability. Obviously a very important factor if you are going to be playing on artificial grass, which can be a lot harder on your shoes overall. And then of course, along with that thin kind of firmer Nike Skin material, you're going to find the fly wire cables that run from the base of the shoe into the actual lacing system on both the lateral and medial side that really aid the responsiveness of the shoe. When you put your foot inside, tie the laces tight, you're going to find that these fly wire cables, along with the actual structure of the upper, lock your foot in place really, really tightly and keep it there. So when you're making those quick cuts, those quick changes of direction, your foot's not sliding around on the base of the shoe. You get that one-to-one reaction time, that one-to-one very responsive sensation that really the Hypervenom Phantom 2 does better than any other shoe on the market right now, in my opinion. Off-centered lacing system, as you guys can see, and the middle portion of the shoe does not feature a tongue. Instead, it's made from an elasticated fly knit. The last element of the upper that's worth talking about is, of course, ACC all conditions control, which is a very common feature for all of Nike's top-end models. And in terms of wet weather performance, you're going to get really decent grip on the ball with the Hypervenom Phantom 2. Moving on to the rear portion of the shoe, you're going to find an internal plastic heel counter, and of course, their new mid-cut design, or new to the Hypervenom line, I guess I should say. This is their dynamic fit collar made from an elasticated fly knit material. It acts as the tongue as well and gives you a nice kind of, not necessarily seamless sensation, but I like how it feels, and that when you slide your foot inside, this middle portion of the shoe kind of stretches out a little bit and it locks your foot in place and it feels nice and snug even prior to tying the laces, but it does not span the entire upper. It only covers this middle portion where the tongue would normally be positioned. As far as the collar itself is concerned, it's a slightly different pattern than what you're going to find on the Obra and Superfly, with the biggest difference being the seam not going directly across the back of the Achilles heel, instead pushed to the medial side, where there's still fuse on both the inside and outside, but it's a lot thinner and more flexible and just not as noticeable overall. So as far as comfort is concerned out of the box, it's a lot easier to get used to how this collar feels than what you're going to find from the Obra and Superfly, just because of the slightly different design. Just like the Obra and Superfly, it does have the internal synthetic leather lining material with some extra padding there, but also like the Superfly and Obra, it does take some getting used to. If you haven't worn a mid-cut shoe from Nike before, even though the upper isn't made from fly knit material, it still does feel a little bit odd at first, and just does take some getting used to. So expect that to be the case if you haven't worn any of these mid-cut models from Nike before, and the Phantom 2 is going to be your first experience. They won't feel perfect from right out of the box, but give them some time to kind of break in and just to get used to the feel, and they will feel a lot more comfortable. As far as the insole is concerned, it is fully removable. I'll give you guys a quick look at that. Hypervenom kind of design right there on the sole, which looks pretty cool. You're going to find a mesh liner on top, and it's made from a single layer of kind of this ortholite material. It's got some good thickness to it. It's a nice spongy texturing, and the overall step-in comfort that it provides is really good. A little bit different from last year's Hypervenom Phantom, but good nonetheless. Kind of an insole that you would normally find on an indoor shoe, so it's a little bit unusual, but like I said, the step-in comfort that it does provide is actually really, really good. So that's pretty much it as far as tech specs go. If you're looking for something that feels like last year's Phantom, that's not what you're getting here with the Phantom 2. It's a lot different in pretty much every single way, but if you want something that's going to be thin, provide a barefoot sensation on the ball, and have a nice firm responsiveness to it, as well as of course their mid-cut design, that's exactly what the Phantom 2 has to offer. In terms of weight, I thought we'd compare the firm ground version of the Phantom 2 to that of the AG version of the Phantom 2 to see if there's any significant difference when it does come to weight using this scale in real time. Keep in mind these are both in brand new condition and both the exact same size 9 US. So we'll start off with the firm ground version of the Phantom 2, throw them on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 7.8 ounces, the equivalent of 221 grams. So remember those numbers. We'll take these off the scale and we'll throw on the AG version of the Phantom 2, and you can see that they weigh in at 8.55 ounces, so about 0.85 ounces more than the firm ground version, almost a full ounce, the equivalent of 242 grams. Now, is this a significant amount of weight? I would personally argue no. You're not really going to notice a difference when these shoes are on your feet, maybe a little bit when they're in your hands. But again, if you're playing on artificial grass, the AG version of the Hypervenom Phantom 2 is not only going to outperform the firm ground version, it's also going to be a lot more durable and, more importantly, a lot safer. So if you're playing on AG fields and you want the Phantom 2, it's going to provide a nice lightweight feel. They're not quite as light as the firm ground version, but it definitely is the better choice. As far as the aesthetics of the shoe are concerned, I've seen a lot of mixed feelings on the internet regarding the Phantom 2. Some people love how it looks, some people hate it. I personally don't mind the design. I like this launch color with the wolf gray upper. You have the orange graphic on both the lateral and medial side with that black crackle pattern, orange Nike swoosh on the front, the black Nike swoosh on the heel, and then you kind of have a heather gray type of look where it's a combination of dark gray, light gray, black and white in the actual Flyknit with the orange kind of mid layer in the collar itself, which acts as a nice little accent. That runs through the Flyknit portions of the shoe. And then of course on the sole plate, you're going to find it's orange in color. The AG version, as you guys can see, features mostly solid black studs. And then of course you have that crackle pattern printed on top of the sole plate and the studs that aren't actually black. So it gives it a very, very unique look. And as I showed you guys earlier in the video, they include that little tag that lets you know that the printing on the bottom of the shoe, the black graphic, will wear off over time. Now, I recently actually made a video on the firm ground version of the Phantom 2 with the pattern and the durability of it in general. If you guys want to check out that video, I'll leave an annotation on screen. But the final conclusion ended up being that it didn't wear off all that quickly. With that being said, that was the firm ground version of the shoe that I used exclusively for about 20 plus hours on natural grass playing surfaces. On artificial grass, which is a much more abrasive surface, obviously the type of surface you're going to be using these on, I would expect the pattern to wear off a little bit more quickly just because of AG fields, especially a hot AG field being, like I said, so abrasive. So just be aware that if you do buy these shoes, the actual pattern on the bottom will wear off over time. It's not going to affect the performance of the shoe, just the aesthetics to a certain extent. But considering it's the bottom of the shoe, a part of the shoe you're not really going to be seeing all that much while you're playing, it's not that big of a deal in my opinion, but something that you should still know about if you were planning on picking these up. So that's pretty much it as far as the appearance of the shoe is concerned. Let me know your thoughts on it down below in the comment section. Do you like how these look? Why or why not? And with that being said, let's move on to the on-feet portion of the video so we can get a better idea as to how these shoes fit and of course what the sizing is like. Alright, so here is a look at the AG Phantom 2s on feet. On my left foot I have the stock gray laces that come with the shoes, and on my right foot I have a pair of black reflective SR4U replacement laces. If you're interested in a pair of replacement laces for yourself, check out the website sr4ulaces.com. You'll find a direct link to that down below in the description of this video. Now in terms of how these things fit and feel on feet, if you're comparing them to the original Phantom, the feel is totally different. This variation of Nike Skin is a little bit thinner and a lot kind of firmer to the touch. So they're not uncomfortable, but they don't have that same soft sensation that you got from the original Phantoms. No sock-like flexibility or anything like that. This is really more about responsiveness and just a nice solid feel on feet, especially when you pull those laces tight. So it's got the same general shape, but the upper, like I said, is a lot firmer overall. And as far as how the AG sole plate and stud pattern impacts the flexibility of the sole, it feels about the same, but of course better suited for artificial grass in terms of stability, and of course the traction that it's going to have to offer, in that the studs are shorter and you have more of them under your feet. As far as the overall width of the shoe is concerned, like I mentioned, it is the same shape as the previous Hypervenom Phantom, but because the different material in the upper, it's not going to have that same ability to stretch. You're not going to have rollover issues at all. The way it fits from right out of the box is the way it's going to fit for its entire lifespan. Those flywire cables are not going to budge whatsoever. Neither is the Nike Skin upper in general. So if you have really wide feet, probably not the best option for you, but they will be suitable for most people. As far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing my usual size 9 US here, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair of these for yourself, sizing is the same as last year's Phantom. I would recommend going true to size. And as far as the mid-cut collar is concerned, it's made from Flyknit. It does feel a little bit more comfortable due to how it's laid out versus what you're going to find from the Obra and the Superfly, at least at first. Once you get used to those, I didn't really have any issues with them, but I feel like it's almost an unnecessary element with this shoe. On the Superfly and Obra, at least the whole shoe's made from Flyknit, so it does give it more of a seamless sensation, whereas with this shoe, it wraps your ankle and it feels good, but it doesn't really add anything to the overall experience. So unless you're dying to have the kind of mid-cut design of this shoe, you're probably better off going for the finish variation, which essentially is the exact same upper with a more traditional construction and cut around the heel and ankle area. It doesn't feel bad on the Phantom 2, but like I said, I don't think it adds to the experience all that much unless it's a feature that you really, really want. Alright guys, that's it for my review of the AG Nike Hypervenom Phantom 2. Again, if you guys are interested in a pair of these for yourself, check out the review page on my website. It'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you will find Buy It Now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you will be able to pick these guys up below their normal $280 retail price. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below in the description, go ahead and check it out. If you guys have any questions at all regarding this particular version of the Phantom 2, leave them down below in the comment section. I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.